Today on Moviewallas, we talk about Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, Friendship, and Lilo and Stitch. It's time for Moviewallas. Hi, this is Joe.
Hi, it's Rashmi.
And Yazdi as well.
Moviewallas is your weekly dose of film reviews, movie news, and general banter in theatres, on DVD, online streaming, or on the back of an airplane. If you love the movies, this show is for you.
And you, and you, and you, and you.
Ay. It is almost Memorial Day weekend.
It is.
Yes.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. This has been I feel like a
blur.
sprint to the middle of the year.
Yes. Yeah, well, I mean...
Middle of the year? Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it's June next week, Yazdi.
Yes.
And then it's birthday season.
My birthday.
Then mine.
You're July.
And then yours.
And then yours.
Yeah, July, August.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Leah's are the
For
best.
all of us. All within 30 days.
Yeah, isn't that nice?
That is lovely.
It's kind of weird as well, you know.
I know, we were just talking about our travel plans. So we're all going to be doing some travel soon. Rashmi off to Paris.
Paris.
Are you going to see Natalie Portman? She lives in Paris,
She
did
does.
you know?
I was thinking about that. I was thinking, what if we bumped into her?
That's such a weird fact. Like,
Yeah, she lives there now because remember her ballet dancer husband, who she's now divorcing from. E-news moment.
Really? She
yes.
has kids?
Yeah, he had an affair on her.
Okay.
wow.
She was on that Dish podcast talking about food and how much better shopping is in Paris compared to the US.
Yes.
It was delightful.
Yeah, well, we're just going there to eat.
Yes.
Okay. There you go.
Like, I'm done with shopping, but the food is rather good.
Yes.
So,
Anyway, not that this is a podcast about food, but she was saying this. It resonated for me because she was saying that in France, people shop for what they're going to eat that day.
Yes.
That meal. Right?
Kind
So
of like
you-
the Asian countries.
that meal, right?
I-
And
Yeah.
Asian countries
Yeah.
too. Whereas we buy like whatever I see, I'll take this,
Yes.
and then it rots and it goes bad. And by the time you get around to eating it, it's stale.
No,
Yazdi, sorry, I was going to say Yazdi's
I'm the major offender.
food cupboards and fridge are like
Exploding.
mazes of delight.
No,
yeah,
but
you
it's
do,
all-
you do store a lot of food.
I do store
in
a lot of food, but I like-
there's like one of you in your apartment, your fridge is at capacity at all times.
This is true.
But it's full of like
It's
amazing
a treasure
treats.
trove.
It is.
I had somebody come over to repair my fridge. And then he was like, "Oh!" He opened my fridge door and he said, "Oh!" And then he opened the freezer and he went, "Oh!" He said, "You should get some Vaseline to seal it because there's too much stuff here."
That's hilarious.
I said, "Okay."
He's like, you wore it out.
I single-handedly admit.
But a fridge that's full is actually more economical than a fridge that's not full.
Is that true?
Apparently.
Well, I
But
still...
Yazdi, that's not an excuse for
I
you to
know.
go and buy more food.
I know, but I would love to be where every evening you go out to shop for your meal that day.
No, so
How
I
That
amazing
would
is
be lovely.
When
That
I
would
was
be
growing
lovely.
up, I used to stay with a French family for many years in a row. And it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
They would buy fruit and veg or meat
Cheese.
for dinner that day.
Yeah.
And bread, of course, fresh
and
bread.
The bread was
per
ridiculous.
meal, you said.
The bread had to be out of the oven before they would serve it. Like if it was from, a day ago, that's for the birds.
Right.
They will not eat bread. At least at the time, they would not eat bread that
Yeah.
was not hotly and freshly baked.
Yeah. Joe's just showing off at how cosmopolitan he is.
I know, I'm so
But he is.
sophisticated.
That's good.
So sophisticated.
Well, we will talk more about Paris in our next podcast.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes, we shall.
As for today, we do have 3 movies to talk about, so we are going to skip our Netflix pick. Boo.
Womp, womp, womp.
But we will be back with Netflix picks next time. So I say we jump into business.
Yes, let's do
with
it.
I've been dying to talk about all of these.
Friendship and Lilo and Stitch.
Well, maybe not Lilo and Stitch, but
Well, because we didn't see that one.
yeah.
But let's go. Mission Impossible. Can we finish this podcast in less than an hour?
I think so.
All right. So I think, Yazdi, you're going to tell us, give us a little... Does it even need an introduction?
Does
My
it even need
goodness
an
me.
introduction at this point? It does not. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, which is part 2 of the previous film, is the eighth film in the Mission Impossible series, which itself was based on the Mission Impossible television show from the 50s. And through Mission Impossible 1 through 5, I believe Tom Cruise, who's been behind all of these and has been producing all of them, made it a point that each of those movies was directed by a different, cool new director. It was Brian De Palma, John Woo, all these,
that's right.
major directors. And sometime, I think at the 6th or the 7th one, he settled down with Christopher McQuarrie, with whom he had made a previous movie. And ever since then, I think 6, 7, and 8 have all been made by director Christopher McQuarrie. So the writing credits for this final installment of the Mission Impossible series, which
Those
is
are very, very big finger quotes there, Yazdi.
Final! Final, damn it.
Was that final?
Exactly.
Yeah, I know. I'm yet to believe it.
Yes. Final. Anyway, so the writers are Bruce Geller, Eric Jenderson, and Christopher McQuarrie. It's directed by Christopher McQuarrie, as I said, and it stars the usual suspects. Tom Cruise in the lead as Ethan Hunt. We have Haley Atwell playing out his love interest. We have Wing Rames, Simon Pegg, Isai Morales playing the bad guy, Pom Klementieff, who we have seen from the other superhero movie franchise, the one with Chris. Anyway, Pom Klementieff is here, Henry Zerny, Janet McTeer, Nick Offerman is here, Hannah Waddingham from that television show is here, Angela Bassett is here, Shea Wiggum, and many others. So this is a movie that is only 2 hours and 49 minutes long. And should I even bother giving a one sentence?
No.
I will. It's pointless. It doesn't mean anything, but I'll say it anyways. Our lives... No, hold on.
Dun, dun,
our lives are the sum of our choices. Tom Cruise is Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning. Okay, what did you guys think of Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning?
Okay. Dead Reckoning.
No.
It's Dead Reckoning.
No, this is The Final Reckoning. Dead Reckoning.
Final. Sorry. Okay.
Dead Reckoning was originally Dead Reckoning Part 1. That's why you're confused. This would have been Dead Reckoning Part 2.
That's why I'm confused.
But they changed their mind.
Right.
And they made this The Final Reckoning, so...
Okay.
Well, what could be more final than death? But anyway, carry on.
So, this is like a lobster mac and cheese that's been deep fried in a delicious tempura with caviar on top, wrapped in a beef Wellington with a delicious demi-glace and potato dauphinoise on the side with a foam of squash. My point is, it's too much. It goes on and on and on and on. It doesn't know when to stop, and it's trying so hard to please us that it just goes over the top.
Joseph?
I'm just going to sound horrible. I mean, I think this was well judged, but it was a little disappointing. Dead Reckoning Part 1 was spectacular. And yes, we all watched that stunt of him going over the cliff with a motorbike, like 59 times, but it was just more exciting than this one. It had more plot, and this abstract entity with whom they're fighting, the entity, was not a good enough bad guy in some ways. It was all so dark and brooding, and the end of the world, and the stakes were all so high all the way through, and I enjoyed it, but it was a little disappointing. I don't think it was too much. I think some of the set pieces were really good fun. I was, the biplane thing that he did at the end. Yes, he did his own stunts, but nothing as exciting as it could have been CGI, and I wouldn't have worried about it. So, unlike some of his other stunts where I gasped, climbing up the Burj Dubai and the motorbike thing and others. So, bottom line is, it's a great movie. It's fun. It's recommendable by me for everyone, but I was a little disappointed.
Yazdi.
I'm going to be the contrarian, but I think this is a great movie, and I'm going to be controversial here, I say just lop off the first 90 minutes of the movie. It's nonsense. It's just nonsense.
Yeah.
It's just so much lore building. And I can sense that this is the 8th movie. It's final. And so there's endless flashbacks. There's endless exposition. There's so much exposition.
Easter eggs.
Like there's like 5 people in a room and they're explaining, this happened and the Soviet submarine went here and this little piece went there and the key was there and the camera pans across each person's face. One person says one thing at a time. It's like, is this a history class? Like I'm like, stop doing this exposition. Nobody's come here to deconvolve some complicated plot. Just get to the action. And the action starts at the 90-minute mark, when Ethan Hunt gets to the submarine. And from then onwards, it's great, I think. And I think if we are exhausted, it's because, we've just gone through all this. I don't need a rehash of every other Mission Impossible movie, what happened to his wife, what happened in Paris, and what happened in Istanbul, and it's too much. I think they're just weighed down by the burden of the whole franchise.
I mean, for me, I think the joy of a Mission Impossible was that you could enjoy each mission as a standalone movie. And somehow they felt the pressure to tie 7 movies that came before together in this one nice package. But the way they packaged it didn't make sense. And so this entity is almost like a godlike artificial intelligence. Is it someone controlling it? I couldn't tell you what the entity is and how it works and how it's all figured out. I'm still like left a little clueless. Look, I'm sounding like a Joe where I sound like I hate the movie, and I didn't hate the movie. I had a great ride and it's great to watch the action. I just felt like, come on, every scene doesn't have to be at like 212%. It didn't give us time. And to your point, Yazdi, it's a little slow to start with. But then once it starts, you get no breath. I was exhausted. For all of them. And I didn't understand what's going on. It's hard to follow the string of what's going on.
I followed, I kept with it. I didn't think that was too hard. I think for me, it was just the you can't keep the stakes at maximum from
you can't start from 11, right? If you start
movie,
right? If you start from 11, you have nowhere else to go.
We get it. The world is going to end, and it keeps trying to ratchet up that pressure and that doom. And I'm like, these movies have never been that dark. There's always high stakes. So it's Mission Impossible. There's global catastrophe. Maybe a war might start. But this is like the end of humanity constantly rammed down your throat. And I was like, okay, I get it. I get it.
I actually wrote, Joe, not enough fun and frolic, only action. We only had one mask reveal. We only had whoop, I'm someone else. We only had one Scooby-Doo moment in it. And I love those Scooby-Doo moments. I live for those Scooby-Doo moments.
Yeah, I agree that I think the tone of it is very grim because there is the final reckoning. And so it just seems overkill that the entire world is going to come to an end, right? So it's like I think they want to be the equivalent of Marvel. What's it called? The Endgame, right? They want to be the equivalent of Avengers Endgame. But I honestly I was giddy as a child. Once the action kicked in, there is an amazing, the whole part in the submarine alone is worth the price of admission. I think how he goes about, and it's almost wordless. There's like a 25-minute scene.
Oh, completely wordless.
Yes.
Completely wordless. Brilliant action. Like you're like, oh, what's going to happen? And it's just how it's been structured, the production design, the editing, everything is brilliant. So I think once it kicked into gear, I really enjoyed every minute of it. I agree it was a little humorless, but yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing which really bothered me about the movie is, and maybe I need to go back and revisit the other ones, the dialogue was so corny. Has it always been, it begins with, the fate of humanity rests in the hands of but one man. It's like, what? And even in the ending, there is like this, and now you can seek your happiness, because you have been something. It's like, what is this? Like,
Scientology?
Yeah. it's so corny.
But not just that, but the interplay between characters. I mean, the final scene with the biplanes.
Yes.
I could literally see the bad guy kind of twisting his moustache and going, whoa.
He
Yes.
does. He's practically evil.
is.
He's evil laughing the whole time.
But it was almost comedic unintentionally. Well, to me, it was almost like it was comedically unintentionally like bad, because it's like I'm not feeling the tension because
We know what's going to happen.
you're playing this like a cartoon character.
Yeah.
And I think that's because of the lines that you've been given.
Yeah.
But he constantly had a smile on his face and says, "I'll get you now," and he spins the plane around. These films have never had that problem of incredulity during the action scenes, and even the submarine set piece, which I think is a masterpiece in action choreography, is a little too much, because again, one of the things that is always been done well here is we know he's Tom Cruise. He's not going to die. We know he's not going to perish at the bottom of the ocean. But the sense of danger in that scene didn't quite get there. It was all very clever and poetic the way it played out, but I never felt as if he wasn't going to make it. And then the way that it ends. Again, I couldn't suspend my disbelief in terms of how he was able to surface, and all of that. It was too much. It was like,
That's what I'm saying. It's
he was
too
a
much.
superhero.
And he's
not a
superhuman.
superhero.
Exactly. He's a spy.
I did wonder if he's going to be like, he's going to follow the John Wick 4 path or the James Bond path with what's his name? Craig. What's his name?
Daniel Craig.
I was like, is it going down there? Because it's so grim.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right.
The two things I did like about the movie. One is that the characters, right? In the president and her people, right? It kind of, the people kind of represented the real world, right?
Yeah, I thought that was done well.
There were
Yes.
people of different accents and
Motivations.
skin complexions and motivations
Yeah.
and so forth. I really like that. It seemed to represent the world we live in, right? So I really like that. And then I let nobody say that Tom Cruise doesn't work hard, right? He is working his butt off. He's 63 years old.
Yeah.
Nobody should run like that when you're 63 years old. Nobody should look like that when you're 63 years old. So give him credit where it's due, for sure.
Yeah. I when I said my beginning, what I meant to say is this is one of the hardest working movies out there at the moment. It's just too much. I can sum this one up. For me, this is probably about I'll give it a 6 out of 10. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. I think it's working really, really hard, but it's as you said, Joe, the like the Marvel movies, it's review proof, right? If you love this genre, if you love this franchise, you're going to go out and see this. So go see it. But in terms of a whole film, I didn't love it. I wanted to love it. I wanted to be sad that it was over. I was just glad it was over.
Because it's 2 hours and 49 minutes
2
long.
hours, and exactly like you said, you could probably cut out a good 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Easily.
90
I mean,
minutes.
I did like some of the callbacks. I love that some of the characters from the previous ones are in here. There are some good callbacks. It's just too long. And it's too much. I put here 2.5 hours. It's getting ridiculous. This has to stop.
It's not 2.5.
No, that was the 2.5 hour mark. I was like, my God, we're at the 2.5 hour mark. This is ridiculous.
I'll give it a very generous 8 out of 10, because I think once you settle in, once you're past all the endless exposition, you get what you paid for, right? People go to watch Mission Impossible for a particular reason, and it has stunts and action choreography that I haven't seen before. And I kind of, I want to give credit, to the people who put it together. I kind of liked how it ended, because again, I was thinking it was going to go like the John Wick route, which it did not. And it's kind of a, muscular movie, I think, overall. All of these movies, they're very muscular. And I mean muscular as in it's always about one action piece to the other and so forth. I like that throughout the movie, So Tom Cruise has been being very meta, like his Maverick was very much a commentary on Tom Cruise himself. Like he's aged and he's kind of, does the world need somebody that old anymore? Blah blah blah. And in this movie, people keep repeatedly asking Ethan Hunt, what is your plan? What is your plan now? Like about 7 or 8 times people ask him, and I don't know if that's intentional, but I think people probably ask Tom Cruise all the time, what is your plan now? Like, what are you going to do? You're 63, you've passed your prime, whatever. So I don't know if it's kind of referencing that, so I kind of like that as well. I mean, I enjoyed it. And we watched it in IMAX.
Yes.
And it's always a treat to watch it in IMAX. And the booster was like pumped up. I thought my seat was moving, but it was just vibrating all the time.
Yes, I would not want to see this in one of those, 4D things that we tried at one of our cinemas.
Yeah.
You would feel
but I don't
2 hours and 49 minutes later.
But I don't want to see anything in
that's true.
4D cinemas.
Yes.
I'm going to give it a 7 only because I'm quite disappointed. I think my expectations had been ratcheted up to something impossible with Dead Reckoning Part 1 because it was so good. It was so fun. It was so tight. It was so well. It was
very tight.
Scripted, choreographed, and performed. And this one, again, it just stretched incredulity a little too far for me. So a little disappointed. But that said, everyone should go see this movie because it is a fabulously entertaining piece of filmcraft. And you should, as Yazdi said, see it in a big, loud IMAX theater. This is the reason we go to movies, right? It's something that you can't get at home, and this is exactly the kind of movie that
very immersive.
Yeah, I remember sitting there at one point in the movie, especially during the submarine scene, where with the sound design, I was like, I can only get this here. That was making me smile inside. I was like, I can't do this at home. There's no way to replicate this in my home right now. And even if I had a $100,000 home cinema put in, it would still not replicate this. So
maybe with a $100,000 setup.
I don't know. I don't think it's possible. Like there's something magical about being in the theater, and I think this movie is one of those showcases. It makes me happy that going out to the theater still provides a unique experience.
That thrill, They did something interesting in that final set piece on the biplane. I noticed that there was no background score because the sound has been raging the whole movie.
Right.
And in the last part, all you hear is the whirring of the planes and the wind and so forth. So that was an interesting choice to kind of make it more immersive. I don't know if it did, but I did notice that there was no background score through that whole segment.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't pick up on that, but that's interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Next up.
Moving on then to movie number 2 of the week, which is Friendship.
Which is almost the opposite of the Mission Impossible. This is described as a suburban dad who falls hard for his charismatic new neighbor. This is written and directed by Andrew DeYoung, and Andrew DeYoung's done quite a lot of TV, including one of my favorite series, some of the episodes called Pen 15, which you can actually get on Hulu. So that was interesting. It stars Tim Robinson, Paul Rudd, who I love, and Kate Mara, amongst some others. So, Yazdi, why don't you go first? What did you think of Friendship? And did it remind you of ours?
What did I think of Friendship? No, it did not, and I'm glad for that. Every once in a while, you feel like you're turning the knob on your radio, and sometimes it's static, and you're like, am I at the wrong frequency, or is the radio at the wrong frequency? This movie was, I was at some staticky station. Whatever wavelength this movie is at, I did not get it. The whole movie ended and I'm like, WTF, what is this movie about? What is it trying to say? Is it trying to be funny? Is it trying to be serious? There were like proper skits happening and eye rolling, but it was also serious. But there was some people in my. By the way, I saw this in a regular cinema. Because I missed the press screening. People were laughing like they had like laughing gas on. I presume they are fans of this guy, whatever De Young is.
Yes.
But I'm like, what am I missing? Like, apparently there's some genius to this movie. Somebody please explain to me why did A24 pick this up? What is the genius to this movie?
Joe.
I mean, the heck if I know.
1.5 stars.
That's
Is that what you gave it?
Out of 5.
Yeah, that's
On my-
harsh for you.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting because I came home and I was puzzled by this too. And I'd heard something about this. I think, Rashmi, you were quite
I
excited.
was very
to see this.
excited,
So,
yes.
I'm looking at Rotten Tomatoes now, 89% critics, 84% audience. And so I'm with Yazdi. I was puzzled by this. I mean, I won't say that I hated it.
I didn't hate it, yeah.
But there's the characters are complete. Well, I say the characters. The character played by
Paul Rudd.
No, the main
Tim
guy, Tim
Robinson.
Robinson, is completely unbelievable, and he can't even. I can't even believe that he holds the job that he holds and that he conducts his job because he's a nitwit. And okay, that's fine. We get comedies where that can be the case, but he is so hard to believe and so hard to like. And I think there are some notes in the movie which resonate. Like the guy who doesn't quite fit in, that wants to have the friend, that wants to find the friend, that finds the friend, then attaches to that friend like a limpet mine, right? Like. I can recognize that. I've been in that situation. I've seen those kind of relationships, and it's like either when it's done to you or when you're the person who's just hungry for that social connection. But it's too unbelievable, right? He's not a character that I can understand, and because of that, the movie frustrates me.
I really like this movie. For me, this totally worked. It was awkward in its cadence.
Yes.
And it felt like some bits were speeded up and then some parts were slowed down. And it kept me on the edge of my seat because, again, for me, Joe, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's a magnified version of some people's reality where they live in a world that they don't understand. And they don't understand social norms, and yet they go about their business and people expect us all to be something, and things are going on around them and they're clueless. And so I found myself, even though it's a really ridiculous character who does some quite awful things, I kind of found myself rooting for the character. So I kind of empathized and sympathized with this character when I really should be quite angry with him. And most people around him are angry with him. But at some point, it made me understand what people who have social anxiety or social awkwardness must feel like, how it must feel from their lens. But it didn't maintain that. I get that it didn't maintain that we were seeing the story from his point of view all the time. Sometimes it felt like we were seeing it from his point of view, and sometimes it felt like we were seeing it from everyone else's point of view. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was just really different.
I mean, I get that it's about the awkwardness that can come from, a world culture which doesn't know how to define male friendship and how it can be extremely awkward, especially if you're trying to build a new friendship. So I can get that. But I think in between there, the movie kind of changes the tones. Like, this guy is so strange, but he has a perfectly well-adjusted, beautiful wife and a son. And I'm like, why is he married and has kids? Has a kid with why he seems to be in a very well balanced, well adjusted family, but he himself is completely off kilter. So that kind of threw me off.
Yeah,
he kind of I don't want to give plot points, although I don't even know if there are plot points. He does something horrible to his wife.
Yeah.
So it just I didn't know what to make of it. I'm like, is this? I mean, I'm reading some of the review comments on Rotten Tomatoes, and people are saying, it's subverting the buddy genre movies, right? So Paul Rudd has made 100 movies with Will Ferrell, with other people. Yeah. And it's kind of taking that and saying it's not always like that. Like, friendship can be very awkward, especially male friendship. I guess now that I read it, okay, maybe that's one way to interpret the movie. And Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of things that it instantly reminded me of, but the wonderful show Extras with Ricky Gervais.
Yeah, exactly.
There is the character.
The Office.
Well, no, there's a specific character, the Welsh guy in Extras, who really tries to latch on to Ricky Gervais, and he's like, he just wants to be his friend, and he's like, maybe we can go out for a lunch together, and Ricky Gervais is like, F off, you like it, you're not somebody I'm into. But the guy's just so desperate because he likes him and he wants to be his friend, and then. There was a scene in The In-Betweeners, which is another horrible UK comedy, but, all the guys are kind of, there's some guy who just wants to be someone else's friend, and they go, your friends, your friend, and they're, school kids just mocking.
Right.
And so I get those kind of moments, those awkward moments of friendship where it is a little one-sided, and so, there's a guy who kind of wants to kind of back away a little bit, but then he does himself no favors as a character, and his behaviors just stretch that. And look, there's a person in my life right now. I'm going to be really careful here because there's
how dare you, Joe? How dare you?
I was going to say it's no way to speak about Yazdi.
It's no way to speak.
But he has some characteristics of this character. He's very, very intense, and he's like 110% with all of his interactions with people, and I can see that plays out here. But the movie didn't satisfy me by telling that story. It just tried to play it almost for laughs without sympathy, and I thought it was kind of mean.
Yeah, I think it's tonally inconsistent. I think if they had picked a direction to go in, because you're right, there are some moments which are very comedic, which are kind of almost fantasy scenes, and they're really funny.
Yeah.
But then it does something really mean, and changes the tone. So I think I agree with you. It's tonally inconsistent, but I love this idea of, we're hearing a lot about bro culture and the what is called the manosphere, and it felt like a little bit of an antidote to that, which I liked. And I like that it's about someone who's socially awkward, who's not held back in life by being socially awkward. So to your point, Joe, he has got a very nice wife who's got a very strange relationship with their son. Sure. He's got a weird relationship with people at work, but he seems quite successful. So I like that it didn't pigeonhole him and say, just because you're socially awkward, it doesn't mean you can't have a successful life. Anyway, I could wrap this one up if no one wants to. I thought that this was a really interesting movie, and I like that it's bringing something a little bit different to the genre of buddy movie or anti-buddy movie. For me, this was a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I don't hate this movie. I don't love this movie. I'm completely dispassionate about this movie. I just feel like I'm like at the start, like I'm at some wrong frequency. I just don't get it. I mean, I understand nominally this is a movie about the awkwardness, right? And I maybe the problem is me, because there are so many movies which are just about making the audience feel queasy and more queasy, where you're shrinking in your seat. I don't enjoy that stuff, so maybe that's why. So it's just not for me. 4 out of 10.
Wow.
Yeah, there's something missing in the writing here, and the movie kept my attention, but I was very frustrated by the inconsistency in tone and in particular the inconsistency in behavior of the characters. Like, they flip as is needed for the comedy of the scene, but then I'm like, who is this person? I don't know which version I'm going to get in the next scene. So I couldn't stay with it. I'm going to give it a 5. Yeah, it's there's a charm there somewhere, but I couldn't find it. All right. Let's move on then to Lilo and Stitch. I had to correct myself mentally there as I was trying to say Lilo. Who's going to introduce
it's me.
us?
So Lilo and Stitch, this is the live action version of the animation, which has been around for quite a while, I believe. And the description is: a lonely Hawaiian girl befriends a runaway alien, helping to mend her fragmented family. This almost sounds a little bit like the movie we watched.
Legend of Oichi.
Yeah, it's almost like a Legend of Oichi, but I don't think it's anything like that. No. This is directed by Dean Fleischer Camp, and it's written by Chris, I'm going to butcher this, Kakanio Kalani Bright, Mike Van Ways, Chris Sanders, and it stars Maya Kealoha, Sydney Agudong, and Chris Sanders, amongst a whole host of others. Yazdi, you were the only one of us who saw this with our wonderful young protege, Clementina.
Did you make the point that this is a remake of the Disney
Yes.
animation?
Yes,
Sorry, I missed
yes,
that. Sorry, I
yes.
was looking for something when
Yes.
you were saying that. Okay.
Yeah, so I should come out and say that shame on me.
Shame on you. I'll say it for you.
50 lashings, but I haven't seen the original animated movie.
Me neither.
Then we should all be whipped together.
Yes.
I
because
think it's also a series.
No,
No.
it was
It's
just,
not just a film. Okay.
It
it had a
was,
sequel.
That's
it had
right.
Lilo's. I think it was when it was released, it was fairly minor Disney release, but it's really grown in esteem amongst young kids because it's about a girl who can't control her anger, right? And little girls, little kids are always dealing with that.
Just like Joe.
And how
not fair. I
and
hate
how
you.
she doesn't know where she fits in the world, and she can't control her own anger until she runs into this alien creature, Stitch, and they form a friendship, and they both learn to deal with the world. That's what the movie's about. This is yet another Disney stab at making a live-action version of a movie,
Why do they
following
keep
Snow
doing
White,
this? Yeah.
following, we have just next month coming out How to Train Your Dragon. We had the lovely opportunity of having Clementina there, and
Yes.
Clementina has sent us her review, which I'm going to read in a
Yay.
second. And then Clementina's younger sister, Matilda, was there, and she was seated 2 seats over. And the funniest thing happened. I think I would have been very cruel to this movie, as another cash cow. We've seen this before. But I found myself watching this movie through Matilda's eyes. And this movie is for all the Matildas of the world, little girls who are trying to figure the world out, right? You're 6 or 7 or 8. And this movie makes all the sense in the world. And Rachel told me afterwards,
Who's Clementina's mother?
Clementina and Matilda's mom, told me afterwards, did you hear what she said during the movie? I said, no, all I heard was a lot of giggling. And, she was like really interacting with the movie. She said that, oh, Mom, Lilo looks just like me.
Oh.
And I almost had tears in my eyes. This is why effing representation matters, right? This is a story about a Hawaiian girl. And, they're not from Hawaii, but still, anybody who looks different, I think it's important that we tell stories, about people who don't look like everybody else. And so I really appreciated that. And this is what Clementina said. So I'm going to read this. Clementina, this is for you. The movie was very close to the original, and some parts were changed for the better. In the animated version, when Lilo was sort of drawing, it felt like they forgot about it after. But in this movie, it showed how Nani was really worried for her. Nani is her sister.
Okay.
And there's a big part about, them
Siblings?
drawing. Yeah,
Okay,
siblings.
okay.
Yeah, an older sibling who is trying to take care of, she's
I
almost
see.
a single parent taking
I
care of a
see,
younger
I
sister
see.
who is, prone to bursts of anger. She said, I also really enjoyed how Lilo and Stitch's friendship was portrayed, and it showed how they grew together, which made the end that much better. She said, in all, it was an amazing remake, and I would see it again with friends and family, which is lovely.
Wonderful.
Which is lovely. Me personally, I thought that it was too loud and too, but I'm not a 10-year-old girl. But for me, it just felt
Sometimes
too
you can be.
Sometimes I can be true all the time. But it was very destructive. And that's destructive is a weird word to use. But when Lilo has an anger tantrum, she's breaking things. Lilo, sorry. Do I keep saying Lilo? Lilo has this much. People are going to spit on my face. Like, why are you reviewing this movie? You don't even know how to pronounce the lead character's name. And then Stitch is constantly destroying things. Constantly. And I'm like, things are breaking. One time a whole house burns down and everybody's like, but they are friends. And Stitch is just like her best friend and is like a dog. I'm like, if you burn my house down, I'm going to be very angry. So shame on me because I'm being cynical and I'm seeing it through a grown person's cynical view when a little kid just sees it for the wonder of it.
I have a comment there because I think that type of mania and comedy works brilliantly when it's hand drawn.
Yes.
But live action, when you see a house burn down, that's not a funny thing.
No.
So I'm just wondering if maybe that's what you're
it is.
responding to, because you can see all sorts of mayhem when it's in a cartoon.
Yeah.
The moment you call it live action, it takes on a gravitas, or it cuts a little too close to home.
Right. Like when the third wine glass breaks, like I am like super anxious. But in an animated movie, they're just breaking. It's nothing. There's
Right.
like it's animated
They're
cells which
drawn.
are breaking. They're
Yeah.
drawn.
Yeah.
But when I'm like, oh my God, there's a third wine glass broken. More wine glasses are going to break. It kind of made me anxious. It's perfectly serviceable. I think if you're of a particular age, it tells you about being othered, about being different, about being laughed at, about kids who don't know how to control their anger. I think a movie that speaks to that is amazing. It has a cute little proper action sequence at the end where, these aliens, the planet that Stitch has come from, they're back to retrieve Stitch. It's fun. The entire thing is set in Hawaii. There's a beautiful sister relationship between Lilo and her sister Nani, which is kind of the heart of the movie. So enough. I'm sure Clementina would give it an 8 out of 10. I would give it 6.5 out of 10.
Which you would.
Which I would back down to 6. But
Okay.
it's perfectly serviceable.
Yeah.
If you want a fun movie to go see with your whole family, either at home or in the theater, it's not too shabby.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I love that you got to see that
Yeah.
through her eyes and through
Me
the eyes
too.
of Matilda, because I
Yeah.
think, it's like Legend of Oichi last podcast or
Yeah.
a podcast two ago. It was quite difficult for all of us
Yeah,
to
I
review
think so.
because I think we could see where it was aimed at, but we weren't that.
Yeah, we were seeing it
We
through
were
grown
the
up.
wrong target. Yeah.
Yes, calcified eyes.
Okay. We got through everything. Let's then wrap up because we do have another podcast to record. We'll be back very soon with reviews of Bring Her Back and Jane Austen Wrecked My Life. In the meantime,
2 movies which couldn't be more different. But
Yes.
carry on. We'll talk more about it.
Isn't that the truth? Thank you once again for listening. Do check us out on all the things except X. We're not on X. We've abandoned X.
Oh, yes, we have.
Yes, for good reason.
Yes.
So yeah, do check us out on and all of your socials. We'd love to hear from you. Until our next episode, too many movies, too little time. A goodbye from me
And me.
And me as well.